In this video, we will discuss the best foods on earth to improve protein levels, whether men should avoid soy, and whether vitamin C is truly a cure-all for kidney disease. All this and more in today's video. The first question is very interesting. How do you control protein in urine? What foods can I eat? Diet is the most effective tool we have to combat proteinuria. In fact, proteinuria is an indicator of kidney damage because it shows how much protein the kidneys are excreting into the urine. Now, the reason why this is important is that the amount of protein in urine also tells us the progression rate of kidney disease. So, how do we stop proteinuria through diet? Start with a plant-based, low-protein diet. Science is very clear on this. The less protein you eat, the less protein you excrete. Even more interestingly, if proteinuria is present, the less protein you eat, the more protein you have in your blood, exactly where protein should be. Patients on a low-protein diet don't have less proteinuria because there is less protein around. They have less proteinuria because their kidneys function better and retain more protein in the blood. However, there are some excellent foods that can further improve proteinuria. One of them is soy. In fact, patients who replace animal protein with minimally processed soy products have been observed to have reduced creatinine and proteinuria levels. However, soy is also high in protein, which means moderation is key when adding soy to your diet. In reality, I would recommend soy foods for patients with proteinuria and a GFR above 60 rather than for those diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. But there's another amazing food that can fight proteinuria even in advanced CKD patients, a food with such strong anti-inflammatory properties that it can protect kidney cells from damage, especially if diabetes is also present. This incredible food is turmeric. I always eat turmeric. I really enjoy it in my morning oatmeal bowl, and of course, I always recommend it, especially if a patient shows signs of low-grade chronic inflammation. There's a lot of research supporting the use of turmeric as a way to combat proteinuria. There are many ways you can add turmeric to your diet. Personally, I like using the spice because it is always available and just as powerful as fresh turmeric. One thing you should remember is to always add black pepper when consuming turmeric, or you can buy curcumin extract supplements. This is a good option, especially for those concerned about turmeric's oxidation levels. Now, let's talk about another vitamin that also helps with proteinuria. The next question: can you make a vlog about vitamin D since it stops being produced in CKD? Impaired vitamin D metabolism is something most CKD patients should be aware of. In fact, vitamin D is crucial for bone health, mental health, blood sugar regulation, kidney health, proteinuria levels, and many other aspects. Yes, in the case of CKD, the metabolism of this vitamin can be impaired, creating a dangerous vicious cycle. Your kidneys cannot activate enough vitamin D, and this deficiency further damages the kidneys. But how can we prevent this? Simply taking more vitamin D3 may not be enough. First, we get cholecalciferol, or vitamin D3, from sunlight, some foods, and supplements. Then, the liver converts it into 25-hydroxyvitamin D, which is the stored form of the vitamin that we can actually measure in your blood. This is something you should check, and if your 25-hydroxyvitamin D is below 30 mg/ml, you should take supplements. Now, this applies to everyone, not just those with CKD. In fact, as you can see, the kidneys are not involved yet. That is the next step. The kidneys convert the stored form into 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D, or calcitriol. Now, calcitriol is an active hormone, and this is something many stage 4 and 5 CKD patients lack. This also means that a patient could be deficient in calcitriol even if they are supplementing with vitamin D and even if their 25-hydroxy vitamin D levels are normal. But there is a treatment for this. CKD patients can actually be prescribed calcitriol or alpha-calcidol. These are vitamin D derivatives designed to bypass this problem. Now, here is the most important part about vitamin D. We do not test your calcitriol levels. As I mentioned, you can have normal vitamin D levels and still experience kidney and bone problems due to impaired vitamin D activation. The way we determine if this is happening is by looking at your calcium, phosphorus, and parathyroid hormone, PTH, levels. In fact, vitamin D is crucial for calcium metabolism, which in turn is essential for phosphorus and parathyroid gland health. So, here's what to remember: if you have CKD, get your calcium, PTH, and phosphorus levels checked regularly. That is how we assess your vitamin D status, among many other things. Now, let's answer another very interesting question about vitamins. Do you remember what I wrote to you a short while ago after confirming with a top global leader in vitamin C, who has written more than 7 books on the subject, that vitamin C does not impair kidney function in any way, even at high doses? Yes, I remember very clearly what you wrote about vitamin C, that people should simply take high doses. I remember it well, especially because your comments made me very concerned. Should people take large amounts of vitamin C every day? No. Please never take high doses of vitamin C. I don't care what any top global leader says about it. High-dose vitamin supplementation should never be done, especially with vitamin C, and especially if you have CKD, chronic kidney disease. You also want to know what happens to your kidneys when you take high doses of vitamin C. Here's what happens if you follow the advice of the top global leader on vitamin C. The process is quite simple. Vitamin C is directly metabolized into oxalate, which is excreted through urine. Too much oxalate in your urine, and boom, you get kidney stones. This is why we always recommend low-dose vitamin C for CKD patients. So here's what you need to remember: low doses of ascorbic acid are great for your kidneys, but taking high doses of vitamin C over a long period can be extremely dangerous. By the way, if you're still considering taking high-dose vitamin C, here's a case study of a man who ended up on dialysis due to vitamin C supplementation. Do you still think it's worth it? Another question about kidney stones: what is the best treatment for kidney stones? What should you do about kidney stones? That depends on the type and size of the stone. If the stone is small, you can often flush it out by drinking plenty of water. There's also an herb that might help, Chanca piedra, also known as the stone breaker. Some evidence suggests it can reduce stone size and help relax the urinary tract, making it easier to pass the stone. Now, if the kidney stone is too large, you may need to see a urologist. There are shockwave treatments that can effectively break down the stone. When it comes to kidney stones, prevention is key, and hydration is crucial. Lemon water is particularly helpful because citrate can help prevent stone formation, and avoiding sugary drinks also helps. The next step is to understand what type of kidney stone you have. In fact, prevention largely depends on the stone type. Calcium oxalate stones, the most common type, can primarily be prevented by reducing oxalate intake and increasing calcium intake. But there are other types of stones as well, and knowing the type can make a real difference. Taking calcium supplements daily won't really help if your stones are caused by a urinary tract infection, right? Let's talk about getting off dialysis. Can dialysis patients increase eGFR? It is very common to see fluctuations in your GFR levels while on dialysis, but this does not necessarily mean that kidney function is improving. I won't go into too much detail, but because GFR is calculated based on creatinine levels, and dialysis removes creatinine, your estimated eGFR is often much higher right after dialysis. But I don't think you're asking about how we determine whether dialysis is effective. What I believe you're asking is whether kidney function can truly improve, and whether a patient can reduce their need for dialysis or even stop dialysis completely. In some cases, patients still produce urine and retain some kidney function, and in rare instances, this has allowed them to reduce or even stop dialysis altogether. What may help here is reducing the toxin load in the body by improving diet and lowering protein intake. There have even been studies focusing on the use of certain antioxidants like coenzyme Q10 and fiber supplements to help patients get off dialysis. But please, don't get your hopes up too high. Most dialysis patients cannot discontinue treatment. Dialysis patients can feel better and experience fewer symptoms through better dietary choices, so I can confidently say that at the very least, achieving a better quality of life is possible with the right steps. Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, cheese. What about vegan cheese? Can you eat it? So, what is vegan cheese? When we talk about vegan cheese, we're referring to a food product made to resemble cheese but without dairy, no milk, no animal proteins. Most brands also add vitamin B12 to their products, which is a very smart choice. In fact, these food products are targeted at vegans, and they really need B12 since only animal-based foods naturally contain it. Nowadays, vegan cheese comes in all shapes and sizes. You can find cheddar, mozzarella, even provolone and parmesan. These vegan brands have gotten quite bold, and I'm really glad they don't sell these in Italy. Anyway, should you toss out your stir-fried zucchini, onions, and bell peppers and eat this stuff instead? I really wouldn't recommend it. First, not everything vegan is healthy. Brands often focus more on making their fake cheese taste good rather than making it healthy. As a result, most of these products are loaded with sodium, not great for your kidneys. This product can contain up to 150 milligrams of sodium and 20 g of protein, which is a tenth of your daily sodium intake in just one slice. Second, this is ultra-processed food. We're talking about most of these products where the first ingredient is modified food starch. Does that sound healthy? I don't think so. Third, this stuff is packed with calories and protein, so I really don't recommend it, just like I don't recommend ultra-processed foods in general. The only cheese alternative I can recommend in moderation is tofu and soy-based products. This leads us to the next question, which actually involves soy. Could soy be a bad choice for older men? As men age, their testosterone levels drop, and they experience hormonal imbalance because their testosterone to estrogen ratio gets worse. Alright, this is more of a statement than a question. This person is worried about their testosterone levels and thinks soy might make things worse. But is that true? First, declining testosterone levels in men is a real issue. We are seeing a global drop in testosterone levels that, according to studies, is linked to the worldwide obesity epidemic. This is a big problem because when testosterone is low, men tend to lose muscle mass and gain body fat. This isn't good for health. But is this global epidemic caused by soy consumption? No. Science says otherwise. In fact, we now know that soy contains phytoestrogens, which are plant compounds that resemble human estrogen. However, there is no correlation between the amount of phytoestrogens you eat and your estrogen levels in the body. So, there's no need to fear soy. If you want to boost your testosterone naturally, what you should do is improve your sleep habits, lose weight, and start a resistance training program. But remember, low testosterone levels in men are a real medical issue, and if natural methods don't work, you should seek medical treatment. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and God bless you all. Goodbye.